Hey everyone, welcome back to So Wizard Podcast Rundown of AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition. Before we get started, please remember to subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow our audience, and you're not going to want to miss the rest of this list. Number 92 on our list is 1990's Goodfellas. Martin Scorsese may not have created the gangster movie, but he perfected it with this brutally honest, horrible, funny, relentless telling of Henry Hill's life. Scorsese was already a big name in the movie business. Before Goodfellas, he already brought the world Mean Streaks, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and The Color of Money. And that's just to name a few that resonate with me personally. Scorsese came across the book Wise Guy, Life in a Mafia Family. The book is an account of Henry Hill's life, but was written by crime reporter Nicholas Pileggi. Pileggi would go on to co-write the script with Scorsese. Scorsese was so invested in this movie that this would be the first script he would put his name on since 1978's Mean Streets. Early drafts of the script told the story in complete chronological order. Scorsese thought that this could be a bit boring for audiences and he needed a way to hook them and pull them in so they'd stay engaged the whole time. The sequence that he chose sets the tone for the whole movie. It's something horrible with kind of a comedic element to it. The sequence that was chosen is a pivotal point for all the characters in the movie, the killing of Billy Batts. This is when the story takes a sharp and drastic turning point and things start to fall apart. Scorsese read Wise Guy and immediately got on the phone. He contacted Henry Hill and told him he was looking for this book for years. He had to make a movie out of it. Henry Hill replied that he had been waiting his whole life for this phone call. Hill was always a bit showy. I mean, the guy turned on his mafia family and instead of laying low in witness protection, he started talking about his life. The book and film follow very much the same trajectory. Of course, some license was taken, transferring stuff from page to screen, but a surprisingly small amount was changed. Much of the dialogue is lifted word for word from the book, especially when it comes to the narration. The tone and personality of Hill in the pages was also used to set the tone for the movie. Scorsese loved the book as it was. The book was loaded with truth, even if we were only getting the story from Hill's point of view. The point of view angle was important for the director. The movie is loaded with details that may not move the plot exactly, but it's the day-to-day minutia that sells the movie as real. The example I like best on this is when the core cast of characters are all locked up in prison. They're in prison, but the scene is about how well they're living and making the food they love, and they're cutting garlic with a razor blade to get it so thin it'll melt in the pan. No mention of prison life at all, really. Scorsese grew up on the East Side, New York City. Where he lived was a fairly isolated Italian-American community. They lived more like a village in Sicily than being smack in the middle of one of the largest cities in the world. Scorsese himself was never in the mob, but he was surrounded by the lifestyle. He grew up hanging out on street corners, hearing the mob and crime stories from different guys. Stories that were often dark and involved a lot of illegal activity, but they always had a bent of comedy and humanity running through them. It occurred to Scorsese at a young age that these guys did some despicable things. He also knew them as human beings. He saw there was a lot to like on an individual basis. This juxtaposition would stick with Scorsese his whole life. In no better way does he express it with his art than in Goodfellas. Seeing the humanity in the individuals along with a funny angle in things that were never meant to be funny gave Scorsese an honest eye to tell the story of a mobster and mob life. It was important to show how glamorous that lifestyle could be, or at least seem, at first glance. It was more important to Scorsese to show that you always pay for it. More juxtaposition from the man. Public Enemy from 1931 and Scarface from 1932 are widely said to be large influences on Goodfellas, and they absolutely were. Scorsese has made mention of being a fan of them his whole life several times. He loved the old Hollywood gangster movies. But one movie that gets less credit for inspiring Goodfellas, and might have been the most influential, is 1903's The Great Train Robbery. Scorsese has even gone as far to say that this is the same exact story as Goodfellas. He even lifted a shot that he loved. At one point in Goodfellas, toward the end of the story for Joe Pesci's Tommy DeVito, Pesci shoots his gun right into the camera. If you watch the 1903 classic, you'll see something very familiar at the end of that movie. With Scorsese's knowledge of real-life mobsters, his personal experiences, classic gangster movies, the novel itself, and the script co-written with the author of the novel, Scorsese switched into filmmaker mode. Now, he's the type of director who isn't inventing the movie as he goes. He's already seen it in his head, and now he's just putting it out in the world. He approached the whole thing with a documentarian's eye. The documentary approach did wonders for the honesty in the storytelling, but some rules had to be broken. The narration from the lead character, and at points the lead character even on screen as his character, talks directly to the camera. This endears the character to the audiences. This is hands down the best performance in Ray Liotta's career. He was chosen, scrutinized by Scorsese, and won out because of his expressiveness. Scorsese also cast his longtime colleague Robert De Niro. De Niro was the leading man for Scorsese many times before, but he wasn't considered for the role of Henry Hill. Scorsese didn't think it would be believable. De Niro has such weight and presence that he couldn't be the new guy on the scene. He was the mentor. He ushered Hill and the audience into the life. He was also a veteran actor, so he served as something of a mentor off-screen as well. Despite this mentor-like status, years of experience, and his raw talent, De Niro became obsessed with preparing for the role. He researched everything he could, read everything he could get his hands on. He would even call Henry Hill personally, sometimes 4 to 5 times a day. Martin Scorsese is an undeniable auteur. Because of this, I always had the impression that he was the ultimate dictator on his sets. Not that he was a jerk about it, but that he had his vision and you fell in line. It turns out that was not the case at all. While he is a man of purpose and clear vision, he also wants his movie to be the best they can be. He's very open to collaboration from anyone. He would run rehearsals on scenes where a large amount of improvisation was encouraged. Scorsese would tell the actors not to act like their characters, but to behave like them. The overall tones and story beats had to be there, but the physicality, actions, and even some of the dialogue was fair game for improvisation. Actors would run through scenes multiple times inventing on the fly. If Scorsese saw or heard something that he liked, he would let them know and that would be locked in. Scenes would either be rewritten to reflect what the group came up with, or just shot right then and there. The most famous improvisation is also one of the most famous scenes in the whole movie. The infamous "funny how" confrontation from Joe Pesci is something that actually happened to Pesci in real life. It was tweaked a bit for the movie, but that was something that Pesci brought to the table and Scorsese ate up. It's also interesting to note that the editor and DP both wanted close-ups for the scene. Scorsese said no. He kept it all at a medium shot. The point of the scene is so that you can see the stress and tonal shift on the actors reacting to Pesci. Time has clearly shown that this was the right call to make. They also experimented heavily with how much time there was between Pesci confronting Hill and DeVito confronting Hill and Hill calling him on it. Another famous scene that's been parodied to death but means so much in the movie is when Hill takes Karen, played by the lovely Lorraine Bracco, into the Copacabana Club. He leaves his car with an attendant. They bypass the line. Doors open for them every step of the way. They access behind the scenes of the club. He's familiar with the staff. He's charming, carefree. They create a table for him right in the front of the sold-out club. It's the absolute height of Hill's mobster life. It's a metaphor for his power and charisma. The doors are literally opening for him while he circumvents the system. It's so powerful. It's even more impressive that this is a legit one-shot scene. There was no sneak edits and no stitching it together. Some audience members had issues with the violence and drugs in the movie. During a test screening, 40 participants walked out in the first half hour. The studio got concerned and asked Scorsese to take some of the violence and drug use out. He stood his ground and made his case that that was what the movie was about. Sure, the violence can be brutal, but it was never gratuitous. There isn't a single act of violence in the movie that doesn't have a clear purpose. He won, of course, and the movie was released as he wanted it. With a budget of $25 million, it opened to only $6.4 million. It would go on to gross almost $47 million, so it was a commercial success. I really thought that the gross and opening overall would have been significantly higher. It was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, for which it only won 1. Best Supporting Actor for Joe Pesci. Well deserved, but again, I thought there'd be more. It went on to win a staggering 43 other awards, many in prestigious film festivals, so that's good. Well, there you have it. One of the best movies ever made. It really should be higher on the list. Sorry I sound like a broken record. Top 10 if you ask me. But here it is at number 92, Goodfellas on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more. Also be sure to listen to So Wizard Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. Check out sowizardpodcast.com for reviews, recommendations, all new merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so leave something in the comments or drop us a line on social media. All of our accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. Make sure to come back next week for number 91, Sophie's Choice. Also be sure to subscribe to our channel because we are coming at you with a slew of New York Comic Con 2020 coverage.